Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take the sources you share, distill their core arguments, and give you the intellectual tools you need to become instantly well-informed.
Our mission today is, well, it's an intense one. We're doing a deep dive into one of the most ruthless and revealing American novels of the 20th century, James M. Cain's 1941 classic, Mildred Pierce.
And we're not just looking at it as, a piece of noir fiction. Our sources present this as a forensic examination of economic survival during the Great Depression.
Exactly. A clinical, almost brutal case study in class aspiration, relentless entrepreneurship, and the shocking price of trying to maintain that facade of the American dream when the whole economy has just collapsed.
We are tracking Mildred Pierce's transformation from a trapped housewife to the head of Mildred Pierce, Inc., and crucially, analyzing the dark, almost inevitable consequences of her choices.
Especially how they all hinged on her relationship with her notoriously terrible daughter, Veda.
That's the heart of it. So our goal for you, the learner, is to extract the core lessons. Specifically, how did Mildred's intense, almost ferocious personal pride? How did it both fuel her success and at the same time guarantee her ruin?
And we'll analyze her business decisions from the moment she baked her first commercial pie to the moment her empire crumbled to see what they reveal about, well, navigating a broken economic landscape.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The novel opens. It's the spring of 1931, Glendale, California. We start with this image of their house. A Spanish bungalow, white walls, red tile roof. It's meant to symbolize that comfortable, aspirational middle-class life.
But it's a total facade. The sources are clear on this. Cain describes the interior as having the standard department store living room set for a Spanish bungalow. It's cold, a little stuffy.
Utterly generic.
Exactly. And it says Bert Pierce, Mildred's husband, was vaguely proud of it, which, that just speaks volumes about how superficial their wealth really was.
And that contradiction is the starting pistol for the whole story, isn't it? This life was built on the shaky foundations of the 1920s boom, and by 1931, the rot has set in deep.
To understand Mildred's explosion, you have to first understand Bert's defeatism. His entire fortune was built on the Southern California real estate boom of the mid-20s. He ran Pierce Homes, Inc.
He saw himself as a community builder, a man of vision.
Right, and they lived on Pierce Drive, a street named after his own, perceived success. But the foundation was pure speculation, not stability.
And the sources are so precise about when that foundation just vanished. Black Thursday, 1929. It didn't just hurt him, it leveled him.
He had taken all this capital he should have banked and just dumped it into AT&T stock, racking up what was supposedly $350,000 in equity.
But let's be clear about that number. That wasn't cash.
Not at all. This was all on margin. For you listening, this means he was borrowing a massive percentage of that purchase price from his broker. So when the market crashed,
He was wiped out instantly.
That $350,000 didn't just shrink, it disappeared. And he was liable for the difference. One moment they're talking about a mink coat. The next, he's selling the spare car just to pay the bills.
The speed of it is shocking, but what's even more fascinating is his reaction. He takes it cheerfully, he jokes about it, because he wasn't ashamed of losing the money, he was ashamed of losing the perception of being smart.
Precisely. His deepest pride wasn't in the money, but in the belief that he was a man of vast sagacity. He had to believe his success was due to his own brilliant foresight, not just
Dumb luck.
dumb luck. The luck of owning land in a booming region. So to admit that would be to admit he was a failure, and his ego just couldn't take it. So he stays home, fantasizing about future vast deeds.
Which brings us right to that first catalytic confrontation. Bert is out on the lawn, whistling, being painstaking about spraying water everywhere. He comes inside, looking for validation. Fixed up those trees, he says.
And this is a plea for validation, but Mildred is in a state of pure financial panic. We find out later she's already gotten a third notice on the gas bill.
So she just meets his pride with this crushing pragmatism.
She points out he watered the lawn when the sun was hot, so it was a waste of good water that somebody else has to pay for.
And that's the trigger. Somebody else has to pay for it. That snaps the facade. He gets defensive and she just lays it out. I don't see anybody working around here but me.
But if his failure was the foundation of the argument, the real catalyst for the split is Maggie Biederhoff.
Right, and it's not some grand Taschen. Maggie is described as this floppy-looking fump.
She provides Bert exactly what Mildred has stopped providing, an audience. a non-judgmental place where he could go and talk about his past grandeur and his future vast deeds.
And crucially, Maggie is financially self-sufficient in a Depression-era way. She has a small income from renting, as the book puts it, hovels to Mexicans. So she has the time and the resources to just listen and feed Bert.
It's an escape hatch. And when Mildred realizes this, she acts decisively. She gives him the ultimatum. You walk out that door to Maggie's, you're not coming back.
And she even grabs a cleaver from the kitchen drawer, holds it up.
She puts it back, but the message is sent. It's a gesture of absolute finality. And Bert, his pride wounded, just accepts the challenge and leaves.
The psychology here is so important. Mildred tells her neighbor later that it wasn't his fault, it wasn't really about Maggie. She says it was just everything.
The driver wasn't jealousy, it was economic necessity. She says, I can't take things lying down. And that one statement, I mean, that defines her entire character from this point forward.
She will not be passive, the exact opposite of Bert.
Then there's the immediate problem of the children. They have to cover it up. The youngest, Ray, whose real name is, get this, Moray, pronounced Moray.
A little taste of their social aspirations.
A huge taste. She comes home, and Bert literally locks her out of the room while he packs his last bag. They agree on a story. He just left for a bit, didn't even say goodbye.
Then she has to face the in-laws. She goes to the Pierces, determined to keep things civil for the children's sake.
And of course, her mother-in-law, Mom, blames the whole thing on Maggie. It's the easy, socially acceptable narrative. The other woman.
But Mildred refuses to be the victim. She cuts her mother-in-law off. She says, it's not Mrs. Biederhoff. I got fed up too. He didn't start this thing today. I did.
And that is a fundamental moment.
Yeah.
She insists on owning the decision. She is not a supporting character in her own tragedy. She's the one who initiates action, driven by a refusal to accept ruin.
So Bert is gone, and that financial news just tightens immediately. We mentioned the gas bill. Then there's this darkly funny detail about a letter from her own mother.
Oh, this is great. Her mother blames Bert for the AT&T crash and then asks Mildred to go sell heavy gear ship chandler's supplies, like anchors and heavy rigging.
In Wilmington, she realizes she's being asked to hawk nautical equipment to bootleggers who only use light, fast boats. It's absurd.
The absurdity strikes her as indescribably comic, but the reality's bleak. The pressure is on for July 1st. The mortgage payments are due. She needs cash, fast.
Which brings Wally Bergen back into the picture. Bert's former attorney. He shows up and he immediately sizes Mildred up as a newly available grass widow.
And this is where Mrs. Gessler, Mildred's neighbor and the true voice of Depression-era cynicism, steps in with her legendary advice.
The sin versus nature lecture. This is a crucial lesson in emotional leverage. Let's break this down. What is the mechanism here?
It's profound pragmatism born of scarcity. Mrs. Gessler insists Mildred must not let Wally buy her dinner out. Because if Wally pays for dinner and then intimacy follows, it's sin.
Right, she's the red-hot mama, he's paid up, he owes her nothing.
If Mildred cooks dinner for him, a Mildred Pierce special, and she looks all cute and domestic in her apron, and then intimacy happens, that's nature.
Old Mother Nature just taking its course.
Exactly. And in that scenario, Wally is indebted. He hasn't paid, he has received hospitality. So he is now obliged to repay her with assistance, with loyalty, not just a one-off payment.
It is brilliant, cold advice. It's about turning a vulnerable social situation into an economic advantage.
And Mrs. Gessler even brings over the bootleg liquor, scotch, gin, and cheap California wine that's been labeled French. She tells Mildred to fill Wally up on the 30-cent a quart wine to save the good stuff. Every detail is calibrated for maximum ROI.
Mildred follows the plan, reluctantly, cooks this marvelous meal. Wally is immediately impressed. Say, Bert must be crazy if he walked out on you.
But the whole thing collapses immediately after. The sources say Mildred has this moment of painful clarity. The second Wally falls silent, she knows he's already thinking of an excuse to get out, already thinking of Bert to avoid any commitment.
She tried to find an honest connection, but the outcome is the same. Wally is not the answer. She has to find work herself.
Which leads to the disastrous job hunt. And this perfectly defines what the sources call the dignity trap. She's desperate for work, but she rejects anything that savored too much of Bert's methods.
So no door-to-door sales, no commission-based hustling. She's trapped by her old middle-class identity.
She answers ads for women with a pleasing appearance, only to find she's one of a day-long procession of girls at his door, all desperate for work. She's just pounding the pavement, wearing down her shoes.
Then at the department store, Karasi Bros, she finally gets an offer from a Mrs. Boole, A job as a waitress in the rooftop tea room.
And Mildred's reaction is just visceral. She is positively ill at the idea of a uniform, a tray, living on tips. She declines, "I doubt if I'm really fitted for it," and she leaves hating herself, knowing Mrs. Boole sees her as a fool.
This failure of pride leads to the brutal intervention of Miss Alice Brooks Turner at the employment agency. And Miss Turner serves up the cold, hard logic of the Depression labor market.
It's merciless. She tells Mildred her experience as a good housewife and a fine cook is totally irrelevant. She explains the market. People are sold over this desk just like cattle in the Chicago yards.
She even talks about the colored cards employers use. Pink for no Jews, blue for no Gentiles, green for no married women.
Mildred's protests about her dignity are just dismissed as fantasy. Turner tells her she is not qualified for anything but maid work, and that cold logic finally breaks through her self-deception.
But the hold Veda has on her pride is still there. This gets tested immediately with the second servant offer. Mrs. Forrester, a name to remember, offers Mildred a job as a live-in companion. It's a safe harbor, quarters over the garage, own entrance.
But Mildred immediately imagines Veda, haughty, snobbish Veda, having to use the back entrance, not being allowed to fraternize with the Forrester children.
And this surge of fierce pride for her child just sweeps over her. She chooses Veda's perceived social standing over her own financial safety. She walks away from the job.
With that July 1st mortgage deadline just weeks away, Mildred finally hits bottom. She accepts the reality she avoided. She takes the waitressing job at a place called Tip Top.
And the pay, for context, is crucial. 25 cents an hour plus tips. Mrs. Gessler figures it'll be about $20 a week.
Which is more money than you've seen since Pierce Homes blew up. In the Depression, that is a fortune. It's enough to survive.
But the personal cost is immediate and devastating. The uniform, the grueling pace, the names customers call her, and then a customer grabs her leg. She feels that violation right up to her core.
She goes home and just collapses in a hysterical fit, vomiting, sobbing that she can't do it.
Mrs. Gessler comforts her, but Mildred has one absolute non-negotiable vow.
Don't tell anybody,
Yes.
especially not Veda. She values Veda's pride, or whatever it is, over her own comfort.
And this is where Mrs. Gessler delivers the defining analysis of the entire novel. She tells Mildred, Veda wouldn't do it herself, but she's perfectly willing to let you do it and eat the cake.
And Mildred's response just solidifies her self-sabotaging mission. I want her to have it. Cake, not just bread. She's willing to prostitute her own dignity for her daughter's luxury.
But the experience at Tip Top also forces this radical positive shift. She goes from being an overwhelmed employee to a shrewd businesswoman. She starts observing the restaurant system.
And she spots the competitive weakness. The food is mediocre, but the single biggest point of failure is the pies. The lousy store-bought pies from the Handy Baking Company.
She knows they're costing the restaurant customers. And this is where her previously irrelevant domestic skill, being a marvelous cook, becomes her unique professional competitive advantage.
She immediately transitions from social aversion to strategic planning. Her first move is brilliant. Infiltration and alliance. She targets Ida, a tough, seasoned waitress.
Mildred offers Ida a ride home in her car, which is essential to her secret life, and uses the ride to get information. Ida, a pragmatist, shares crucial inside info.
And Ida becomes her champion, her agent inside Tip Top. She orchestrates a showdown with the owner, Mr. Chris, arguing the pies are losing them business.
Mildred delivers the samples, and Ida transports them back like a spy carrying bombs.
The test is a huge success. The lemon pie is devoured immediately. The chef, Archie, gives Mr. Chris the safe gesture like an umpire. Mildred has won the Tip Top pie contract.
This is a massive victory. She's turned her domestic skill into a commercial product, bypassing the traditional labor market entirely.
And this is where Mildred Pierce, Inc. is born. She expands rapidly. She's drumming up neighborhood trade, selling pies for 85 cents each, and she lands a second restaurant contract.
She's working harder than she knew she could work. And her income is now substantial enough to professionalize her life and maintain the illusion for Veda.
She hires a girl named Letty to manage the house and children. And she maintains the secret. She's still waitressing at Tip Top, secretly laundering her uniforms behind locked doors in the bathroom.
Her psychological shift is complete. Her vocabulary changes to my pies, my customers, my marketing. She's a going concern, a genuine capitalist entity.
This new financial leverage is essential for her next step, asset acquisition. Wally Bergen comes back with a proposition. The old Pierce model home, the former office, is for sale by the receivers.
Wally sees it's perfect for a restaurant, smells like chicken, and it's available for $4,000.
But there's a huge legal obstacle, community property law. As long as she's married to Bert, he'd be a co-owner. Wally dictates a divorce is mandatory.
When Mildred brings it up, she finds Bert just sitting passively in her kitchen, watching her make pies. He objects on moral grounds, his church, but his real objection is about pride. He wants to control the deal.
Mildred sees right through it. It's just his defeated male pride. So she shuts it down, using Maggie Biederhoff as the ultimate leverage. She threatens to spring that Biederhoff woman on him.
But the most audacious moment, the one that shows the total power reversal, is the car key.
Oh, this is incredible. She's been struggling, pounding the streets, wasting time, while Bert lounges around with the car.
Wally and Bert are talking in the hot den. Mildred, with breathtaking calculation, asks both men to take off their coats. She drapes them over her arm.
Steps into the closet, slips her fingers into Bert's change pocket, finds the key, and hides it in her shoe.
It's not an act of passion. It's cold, calculated economic warfare. When Bert asks for the key later, she just stands there smiling. She asserts, "I'm working, and I need it, and you're not."
It's a clean, decisive reversal of the traditional marital power dynamic, backed by economic fact. She then drives into Maggie Biederhoff's, cementing the end of the marriage.
And Bert, in one last attempt to salvage some dignity, insists on giving her the mortgaged house on Pierce Drive so nobody can take it away from you. He offers his last asset, even though it's a liability.
So with the divorce underway and the model home acquired, Mildred pours every bit of capital and credit she has into the transformation. She gets a gigantic range, a symbol of her new professional self.
But she's terrified, deeply worried about the debt, the interest, the installments. She's now the sole proprietor of a massive financial risk.
And success arrives, but it is immediately overshadowed by tragedy. The opening of her new restaurant, the Pie Wagon, coincides almost exactly with Ray's sudden fatal illness.
Ray is hospitalized. The doctor first suspects grippe, but her temperature soars to 104. The diagnosis is terrifying, an infection above the mouth, threatening to drain right into the brain.
And let's remember, this is the 1930s. Access to effective antibiotics was highly limited. The doctor prescribes a $25 transfusion treatment, a desperate measure.
And that $25 is a massive chunk of her reserves, showing just how high the cost of emergency health care was.
Mildred is caught in this agonizing conflict. She's built this success, but the demands of Mildred Pierce, Inc. are relentless. She's forced to leave the hospital after only brief vigils to deliver pies, pay painters, and contracts for chickens.
She has traded her time for financial solvency, and now that time is critically needed for her child.
The climax is brutal. Ray is seized by a sudden chill. Her pulse rockets to 132. Breathing stops. The doctor tries desperate artificial respiration, jamming syringes of adrenaline into her.
Mildred, sitting silently, watching, just tightens. She realizes the truth. The child is gone. She stands up, stops the frantic attempts, kisses her, and pulls the sheet over her face.
The source says she is numb, feeling no capacity to feel. The hustle has hardened her.
Bert returns and hands up a funeral. Mildred feels this moment of profound shame, not over the death, but because she has no rector of her own. Her astrology didn't quite seem to fill the bill.
It's a stark illustration of how class aspiration still dictates her internal compass, even in the face of death.
And Mrs. Gessler, ever the pragmatist, steps in to manage the social fallout. There was talk about a weekend trip Mildred took with a man named Monty Barragon.
Mrs. Gessler squelches the rumors instantly by presenting a huge set of lilies with a card reading Mr. and Mrs. Otto Hildegard, manufacturing a socially acceptable alibi on the spot.
The funeral scene has this powerful, unsettling image. Bert creates a canopy of flowers with a sprinkler, and a rainbow shimmers over it, framing Ray's head. The image breaks Bert completely.
But Mildred remains unstirred. And Veda, she just calmly goes to practice piano at her grandparents' house. Bert defends her coldness. She's a child. They don't feel things the way we feel them.
But you, the reader, you know Veda's coldness is inherent and absolute. Ray's death tragically removes the soft part of Mildred's life, freeing her to be purely ruthless in her business.
A few months pass, and Mildred is intensely focused on the business. But she can't ignore the pull of Monty Barragon, the man she met while waitressing.
Monty is the epitome of decadent, failed Pasadena aristocracy. He's 33 from a prominent family, and he just loafs. He gets a diminishing check from a family estate that's failing.
Mildred is deeply disturbed by Monty's way of life. Bert at least had grandiose plans. Monty's complete indifference to work makes Mildred feel small, mean, and vulgar.
This psychological conflict turns into social shame. She quickly realizes he's treating her like a servant girl. He never introduces her to his women friends. He smuggles her into his mansion when his mother and sister are away.
So why does she tolerate this?
Veda. It's always Veda. Monty provides Veda with access to the high society that Mildred craves but can't get herself. He grants Veda all the social equality that he withheld from Mildred.
And this compromise is crippling. She pays for Veda's social elevation expensive riding gear, golf clubs, tennis outfits, ensuring Ava's photos appear in the society pages. She's buying her daughter's approval.
We see Mildred's new capitalist identity forming here, too. She starts pontificating about politics, becoming furiously aware of taxes, blaming Hoover extravagance.
She starts thinking worthless people are too lazy to work. Her personal journey has transformed her into a small-scale, deeply conservative capitalist.
Monty, leveraging his connections, tells Mildred that Veda has real musical talent. This leads them to a respected teacher, solidifying Monty's utility in Mildred's eyes.
But the shadow of ruin falls completely over Monty. Veda comes home with the news. The House of Baragon is care finished. His mother's bank stock failed. The family fruit company folded.
It's a textbook Depression-era ruin. Monty is now truly broke, but he still refuses to work. He prefers to stay in the mansion and take spending money from Mildred.
She starts giving him 10s and 20s, straining her business. She rationalizes it, telling herself she's just helping someone in need, but really she's paying to maintain her social access through him.
The tension culminates in this ultimate, painful confrontation. She finally asks him the truth. You'd rather live there and take your spending money from me than work, that's all, isn't it?
And stripped of his dignity, he finally admits it. Sure, he says he's her paid gigolo. But then he throws her greatest shame back at her. He says he brought Veda into society to deal with what otherwise would have been a situation.
Implying she, Mildred, was the situation, the socially unacceptable part of the equation.
And then he delivers the ultimate rage-fueled attack. He calls her scum, you waitress, and boasts that Veda wouldn't pick up a tip. That's one thing she wouldn't do, and neither would I.
It's the moment her pride and her ambition clash violently. White with rage, she throws a crisp $10 bill at his feet.
And he retrieves it with fire tongs and burns it in the fire. He's rejecting her money not because he doesn't need it, but to assert his social superiority over its source, the waitress.
Despite that personal collapse, Mildred's business drive is relentless. Mrs. Gessler, now called Lucy, warns her that the repeal of prohibition is about to stand the whole restaurant business on its head.
Lucy argues that any place that doesn't adapt will be seen as back numbers. Mildred hates the idea of running a saloon, clinging to her middle-class propriety.
But Lucy, ever the sharp businesswoman, proposes a partnership. She'll manage the bar for 10% plus tips. It's a necessary pivot.
Wally confirms it. Selling liquor is incredibly lucrative, 80% profit. He insists she advertise cocktails with a red star, so she acquiesces, choosing profit over propriety.
Meanwhile, the snobbery at home escalates. In a pivotal scene, Veda realizes Mildred can't immediately buy her a new piano. She drops her polite facade and calls their home a dump, and Glendale a wormhole for grubs.
This is the moment Mildred fights back. She asserts her financial control. The hand that holds the money cracks the whip. She forces Veda to use the old piano.
By the peak of her success, Mildred Pierce, Inc. is a verifiable empire. 4 units. The original Pie Wagon, the Pie Factory, and new restaurants in Beverly Hills and Laguna Beach, the latter managed by Lucy.
And Veda's career skyrockets. She's training as a coloratura singer. Her teacher, Mr. Treviso, recognizes her unique talent, saying her bones is coloratura, but he warns that coloraturas are all take-no-give and only associate with rich people.
And then comes the bombshell betrayal. Mrs. Forrester, the woman Mildred almost worked for as a maid, comes to the restaurant.
Veda is pregnant by Sam Forrester, the son.
And Veda is chillingly composed, admitting she was indiscreet and is now holding the bag.
Wally is called in, and he cuts right through to the cynical financial reality. Sam is about to inherit a massive fortune. His family is terrified that if he dies, Veda, as his wife, would get a huge cut through community property laws.
So they're breaking their necks to head it off.
But the personal betrayal runs even deeper. Mildred finds Veda missing one night and confronts Monty. He confesses the shocking truth. He used Mildred as live bait to attract Veda.
They had been using Mildred's house and her money to facilitate their own relationship. Monty even boasts that he switched from one woman keeping him with a pie wagon to another keeping him with a voice.
Veda, the object of all Mildred's ambition, has become her ultimate betrayer. This personal chaos triggers the final financial ruin.
The business is profitable, but the immense overhead of the Pasadena house and supporting Monty and Veda, it destroys the corporation's reserves.
Mildred starts taking illegal actions. She takes $5,000 in bonuses from the corporate accounts, hiring a secret accountant to hide it.
The failure to pay major creditors signals the end. Wally Bergen, who taught her how to build the corporation, is now retained by those same creditors.
And Wally lays out the truth with cold precision. The business would be profitable if Mildred wasn't mercilessly milking it to keep up the Pasadena establishment.
Mildred tries one last defense, invoking the corporation law Wally taught her. Her personal property is safe, but she's too late. The funds have already been drained to pay for Veda's life.
Wally delivers the final, most painful ultimatum. You'll be out, and I'll be in.
Ida, the faithful waitress who helped her win that first pie contract, cried but agreed to replace her. Mildred has lost her name, her daughter, and her empire.
Defeated, she's left with nothing but the mortgaged house on Pierce Drive. The liability Bert insisted on giving her. She drives automatically back to Glendale, seeking the comfort of the man whose failed plans she once despised.
What an astonishing, devastating analysis of ambition and self-sabotage. Mildred Pierce successfully transcended her class position from an unqualified housewife to a formidable corporate boss.
Her rise was purely self-made, based on an understanding of real value, the superior quality of her pies. But her fall was driven by an equally powerful destructive force, her deep-seated desire for Veda's approval.
She kept demanding Veda have cake, not just bread, and she sacrificed everything for it. The moment Veda was given the social leverage of Monty and Pasadena society, Mildred's fate was sealed. She exchanged financial solvency for social status and lost both.
And the ultimate irony is she loses everything in pursuit of a status she was never comfortable with, only to return to the man she left because he failed to maintain that exact same status.
Which brings us to that final, provocative moment from the source. Mildred, ruined, returns to the small house on Pierce Drive. After Veda reveals her final betrayal, Mildred turns to Bert, the man she scorned, and says, "Come on, we got each other, haven't we? Let's get stinko."
So is this decision to return to Bert and get drunk a complete surrender to the weakness she fought so hard against? Or is it a pragmatic, maybe even comforting acceptance of her one enduring reality? That only Bert, whose flaws she understood better than anyone, offers unconditional, uncomplicated companionship, a place where she doesn't have to be Mildred Pierce, Inc., and can finally acknowledge the cyclical nature of their survival.
The drive for the future vanishes into a shared, blurry past. A perfect place to leave you, our listener, to reflect on the nature of self-made success when that success is tied not to self-fulfillment, but to the external validation of others. Where does your drive stop and your debt to pride begin? Until next time, keep digging deep.